And I've said this to many people, value-wise, it's far and above uni. Not saying uni is bad, but in terms of the value you get out of a unit compared to this as a whole. Yeah, I mean, this resource is something that we all wish we had when we started uni. I was lucky to have it on the back end of uni. Keep doing uni and keep studying because you get a lot of experience out of that, as I saw. If you're not listening to this or if you're not in the community, you're falling behind. So get in it.
Hello and welcome to episode 300 of the SportsGrad podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry, brought to you by Deakin University. My name is Ruben Williams and I am so stoked to be chatting with you today because quite frankly, I never thought this would be a 300 episode podcast and I never thought it would be a business and platform that it is today. 7 years ago, I started SportsGrad as a YouTube channel, and when I first created my first ever YouTube video, I sent it out to a bunch of mates to get their thoughts and opinions, and in typical tough love male fashion, I got a bunch of snoring emojis in response. And at that point, I kind of thought, why even bother? Why stick my neck out and, ask for feedback like that? But if it wasn't for an old high school mate called Angus in that group who responded with, "Nice job, Rui," then I might not have ever made another video. And so I'm very grateful to Angus. I'm very grateful to everyone who's ever listened to an episode or followed on social media or supported, come to an event, whatever, or every single podcast guest who's ever appeared on this as well. I'm very grateful to everyone who has made SportsGrad what it is today. So to be speaking with you 7.5 years later after relaunching the YouTube channel as a podcast and hitting episode 300 of the podcast, and now talking to you today about how it's relaunched as the go-to platform to break into and grow your career in sport is just super, super exciting. So what I'm going to share with you today is actually an adapted version of the live product launch from 2 weeks ago. So if you've been following me on Instagram or LinkedIn, you would have been seeing that I've been locked away down in Lorne on the Great Ocean Road, rebuilding and remodeling SportsGrad into a much better and more useful product. And that's involved a whole lot of research, it's involved a rebrand, and now it's involved a little relaunch. And so to kick it off, hosted a live webinar where people could come and get introduced to the product for the first time. And it was awesome. We had some great people on the call and had a lot of members rock up and share their thoughts and very kind testimonials as well. And I thought, great, let's just record that and share it out as episode 300. Well, technology has somehow failed me because I cannot find the recording anywhere. So if you're lucky enough to be on that call, well done to you because you are one of a few who will never get to experience that again. So today is actually just going to be a little reenactment of that for you. I was just going to pretend that this was a recording from the live launch, but you know what? I'm just going to be honest with you. So I am reenacting the whole thing for you because there's still some good stuff in there. But quite frankly, today's episode, which runs you through everything that SportsGrad now is a little bit salesy, which I don't like doing, but basically I'm, laying out the problems that come with getting a job in sport, and I'm going to be showing you how SportsGrad trumps them. So sorry, not sorry for that. But, if I didn't think that SportsGrad and this product could genuinely help you, then I wouldn't waste your time. So here we are. Now, at the top of the episode, you would have just heard Nathan Peroni speak about the value of the SportsGrad membership. Now, Nathan Peroni was the very first person to ever become a SportsGrad member. And what you just heard there was his thoughts from back in 2021. Even back then, he thought it was an essential tool for breaking into sport. And after today, given the changes and improvements made to SportsGrad, pretty soon it's going to become a given that if you want to break into sport quickly, you need a SportsGrad membership. Just like how when cars were invented, everyone realized, actually, I can get where I need to go a lot quicker with a car. So eventually it just made sense for everyone to buy one. That is the direction that SportsGrad's heading. Sure, you can go and get a job in sport without SportsGrad, but it's just going to be a shitload quicker and easier, and you'll get paid sooner if you use SportsGrad. So super stoked to be introducing it to you. Hope you enjoy. Please enjoy this reenactment of the live launch of the new SportsGrad platform. 10 years ago, I dropped out of uni because I didn't like the life that it was taking me towards. It was taking me towards this future where I imagined I was sluggish to get out of bed, would make my way into the city and clock in just as some corporate drone trying to help the rich get richer. And frankly, I didn't want that for my life. I wanted to wake up excited every day to go to work on something that I loved, something that had a purpose and would make an impact in the world. And that is when I decided to drop out halfway through my first degree and go all in on a career in sport. But when I started my sport management and exercise science degree, I realized that actually I have no idea what job I want to do. I realized that it wasn't enough just to love sport, because billions of people love sport. If I was going to love my job, I had to find a place in the industry where I could actually add value. And so to try and collect as much information about the sports industry as possible, what I would do is I would go out and send messages to people on LinkedIn. I volunteered in my footy club and my cricket club. I spent thousands of dollars on extracurricular study trips, and I tried to meet as many people as I could, but I still had no idea what I wanted to do. And so in 2017, I started SportsGrad as a YouTube channel as a way for me to find out what job I wanted to do. And what this meant was I would go out and ask professionals what they do and how they got to where they are, also that me and my uni friends could get more information that would help us make a decision about where we can find our place in the sports industry. And so by the end of that year, after a 5-year journey across 3 degrees and 8 different internships, I landed my first full-time job at Cricket Australia, which meant on the Monday after my final exam, after stressing about what I was going to do after uni and not wanting to go back and start a 4th degree, I instead walked into the head office of the sport that I grew up loving. Unfortunately, not as an opening batsman, like I'd hoped, but as an employee, which I still thought was pretty good. But then immediately my inbox blew up, and I had dozens of people begin to message me and ask me, Ruben, how did you land a dream job in sport? And so I started career coaching these people to help them win jobs in the sports industry. And it didn't just help students land their first job in sport, it put my frameworks and methods to the test on how to stand out in the most competitive industry in the world. And they worked. People started getting jobs. And now every day I would go to work in Jolimont, have lunch at the MCG, and then at night I would go out to the Deakin University Library and career coach students. That was my life for about 3 years. But in 2020, COVID came along and made my job redundant. And so it was during that period that I switched my attention from Cricket Australia to helping thousands of others land a dream job by launching the SportsGrad podcast. And it was quite ironic at the time, but if you were following me on LinkedIn, you would have seen me come out 1 week and say, hey, I've just lost my job, who's got something going? And then 1 week later come out and say, hey, I know this is highly ironic, but here's a podcast about how to get jobs in sport. However, within 3 days, it became the #1 careers podcast on Apple in Australia. And so then we carried on with that and thought about how else can we help our members? How else can we help our audience? So later that year, the first SportsGrad membership was launched. And since then, it's helped over 1,400 people grow their connections, their confidence, find clarity in their career, and ultimately led to more than 650 roles in the sports industry for SportsGrad members. But the membership product has just had a facelift that will make it easier than ever to land a job in sport that you love. Now, previously, the membership was a one-size-fits-all product that you could only join for a year at a time. But today, I am super excited to relaunch SportsGrad as the go-to platform to break in and grow your career in sport, with 3 membership options that are open at any time, designed to help you as the needs of your careers change. Today, I'm launching the easiest way to learn, connect, and fast-track your career in the sports industry. Now, the first one is the Learn membership, which is like Netflix for jobs in sport for people who are struggling to decide what path to take. Now, at this level, you get access to the ultimate guide to jobs in sport, which is like our SportsGrad library. In here, there is more information about jobs in sport than anywhere else in the world, and you can use it to find your place very, very quickly. The second one is the Connect membership, which is kind of like ClassPass, but for networking in sport. And this is for people who are, nervous about meeting people, maybe a bit introverted, maybe your LinkedIn messages have been falling on deaf ears. With this, there's no need to worry about who to reach out to or what to say to get their attention, because we bring the networking opportunities to you, making SportsGrad the fastest and easiest way to grow your network in sport. And the third one is the Fast Track membership, which is kind of like having a personal recruiter help you break into sport. Now, this is designed for people who don't want job hunting to be a full-time job, maybe just like a casual commitment for a few weeks. Now, this membership gives you everything you need to be a standout candidate and not waste time working in a job that you hate. So, for the last 7 years, I've had a whole lot of leaders in sport come up to me and say, Ruben, I really wish SportsGrad was around when I was coming through. And that sentiment is about to become even stronger because after today, careers are going to accelerate even faster than ever before because now it's simply just getting easier to get jobs in sport thanks to the SportsGrad platform. But why is a platform like SportsGrad even required? Like, there's no med grad and no law grad. Well, it's because jobs in the sports industry are so competitive. Like, if you want to be a nurse, generally you complete uni and there's a job for you at the end. Or if you want to be a police officer, you get through the academy and there's a job for you at the end. But SportsGrad is so required for job hunters in the sports industry because there is no guarantee of a job at the end of it. You see, because sport is so popular, there is a massive amount of supply of people willing to work in sport. However, there is only a finite number of jobs in the sports industry. In fact, it's less than 10% of the size of other industries in terms of jobs available when you compare it to things like healthcare, education, retail, construction, manufacturing. Sport, just particularly in Australia, just doesn't stack up in terms of the number of headcount, which means sports don't really need to try too hard to attract people to work for them, but instead, what they do have a problem with is filtering out the good ones. Now, I spoke to the general manager of people and culture at one of Australia's top 2 NSOs recently, and they said that recruitment is risky, which is why they lean on referrals all the time. For example, they will go to staff members and family members and friends and ask, who do you know in your networks that we can trust to bring in and work for us? And that is because hiring and firing is such a drawn out process. It's very expensive and therefore recruitment is risky, which is why when you've got lots of people who want to work for you, you need to be careful with who you bring in. Now, going back to episode 71 of the SportsGrad podcast, Head of Performance from the Manly Sea Eagles, Donnie Singe, said to us that people offer jobs to people they know and trust because they have historical evidence of what they've achieved and done, which means you might have heard this phrase in relation to the SportsGrad, but it's true. Sport is all about who you know. Now, who you know is enough to get the okay jobs, but if you want the dream jobs, like the 1% that very few people ever achieve, it's about who knows you and for what. So in 2020, after my job was made redundant, I was headhunted because of who knew me and what they knew me for. And yes, I was a few years into my career, but this applies to jobs at every single level. These days, a degree doesn't mean you get a job in sport. It means you get to the start line. And when I arrived at Cricket Australia, no one cared about my grades. In fact, nobody even asked to see my academic transcript. Instead, they only wanted to know about my work experience. And I was in that room so they could get to know me and what I had done. So it's all about who knows you and for what. And right now, I'm going to break down how SportsGrad helps you become well known and for the right things. Now, I'm going to share with you a very harsh truth of the world, and that is nobody cares what you can do. The world only cares about what you can do for them. And in the sports industry, this means that nobody cares that you know all of Cristiano Ronaldo's stats. It means that the industry cares if you can sell sponsorship, or if you can run an event, or if you can sell tickets, which means that you need to know where you can add value, or as I like to say, you need to know your niche. So it doesn't matter if that is events or sales or partnerships, analytics, nutrition, biomechanics, or HR, but it matters that people know you for something. Because when you are known for something, then they can understand how you could help their organization. But if you arrive at a organization and you say, "Excuse me, I would like to be a sport manager," what you're going to do is you're going to receive a groan in response, because what you've just done is you've passed on your problem of not knowing where you fit in onto them to try and think of a place for you to fit in. And so the problem at the moment with current education about the industry is that sport management and sports science are very broad fields. It's not like there's a title in the sports industry called sport manager. Sport management includes one of a dozen things, and it's the same on the science side. And so if you arrived at the AFL, which is the largest employer in sport in Australia, and you said, "Excuse me, I'd like to be a sport manager," they would say, "Can you be more specific?" So if you end up applying for a job and all you have to say is, "I'd love to work in sport," then what you're going to do is you're going to lose out to the person who says, "I'd love to work in commercial partnerships for your company because it's a perfect combination of my skills and interests." You can't compete with a person who knows their niche. So, how do you actually find your niche? Well, if you ask Steve Jobs, he says the only way to do great work is to love what you do. But let's say there's 100 different jobs in sport. How on earth are you meant to know which one you do your best work in? What you need to do is decrease the options so you can increase your results. Because knowing your niche comes from collecting data about the industry and then filtering it until basically you're left with one thing that you love to do and are good at. But then that begs another question. How are you meant to learn about everything about 100 different jobs? Well, there was the old way of doing it, which is where you could go out and try and meet with 100 different people to learn about 100 different jobs. And, you know, if you went out and took this path, it would cost you $1,000 of coffee, $2,000 in train fares, probably take you 2 years of your life if you did on average one per week. And previously, when I was trying to get the information about jobs in sport to figure out what I want to do with my life, I would first have to jump on LinkedIn and find someone I want to learn from, which would take me about an hour. Then I'd have to draft an absolutely perfect message to that person because I didn't want to make a bad impression. I didn't want to come off as desperate, which, you know, would take me another 3 hours to make me feel like, all right, this is a safe message to send now. Then I would actually have to have the confidence to send it, which again would like take me 4 days. And then I would have to wait for them to respond. And if you were messaging a cricket person in cricket season or a footy person in footy season, then sometimes that's 3 to 4 weeks. Then eventually you have to go travel, meet them, chat for an hour, then you travel back home. And, you know, it was quite often that I would forget my notepad. So after making all that effort just to meet one person, I would actually have to just pray that I would remember what they said to make the effort that I'd gone to worthwhile. But back then, like, this was just like what you had to do. Like, there was no other option to get your name out there and learn from professionals. And when the competition for jobs in sport is so red hot, if you are not prepared to do this, then you're simply going to be overlooked for the people who are. So I always used to think, like, you know, if someone could just go out and do all the networking and do all the interviewing on everyone's behalf, wouldn't that make everyone else's life a hell of a lot easier so we can all figure out where do we do our best work? Well, for the last 7.5 years, that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do. I've interviewed over 300 people in the last 7 years to create a bank of information that you can't find anywhere else called the SportsGrad Library, which is the Netflix for jobs in sport. And it saves you so much time trying to find out where you belong in sport, which is why Matt has messaged me here saying, "Hey Ruben, been hearing great things about SportsGrad, finally got into it, have binged through all 200 plus episodes in around 3 weeks at 1.5x speed." And similarly, Jake messaged me more recently saying, "Hey Ruben, I'm up to episode 262 out of the 284 that were out at the time. Have only got 22 more episodes to go until I've listened to all of them." Now, messages like this aren't uncommon because inside the SportsGrad library, it's got everything you need to know about what people do and how they reach their job so that you can figure out where you're meant to be in the sports industry and do your best work very, very quickly, which allows you to get out of those confusing years of trying to decide what to do with your life. And it means you don't have to find 100 people to learn about 100 different jobs in sport. It means you can get all of that information at your fingertips and progress your career much, much quicker. For example, someone who did this really, really well is a SportsGrad member called Brant Hubber. So he's been a member since 2021. And in that time, he identified where he can do his best work, which is in commercial partnerships. And because Brant was able to filter down on all the jobs in sport that he can do and narrow it into one goal, all of his energy was going towards the one thing. This was all of his networking, all of his work experience, all of his extra reading, the things that he listens to. All of this was focused, which meant that he became one of the youngest people ever to join the commercial partnerships team in the AFL. And that is an incredibly hard thing to do because the AFL is dealing with massive, massive sponsorships. You don't just give them to someone straight out of uni. You got to give them to someone who has got the ability to deal with stakeholders and you can trust with details. And Brant was able to do that. And because of that, he beat a field of thousands who, had a vague and varied idea of what they want to do with their careers, which instead meant he got the very rare job in one of Australia's biggest sports. Now, with SportsGrad, you can find your niche very, very quickly because all that information you need is available at your fingertips. And at the moment, we've got stacks of different examples and insights of what you can do. But in the years to come, I'll be building SportsGrad up to thousands of easily accessible examples in your pocket to make it easier than ever to find your place in the sports industry, not only in Australia, but right around the world. So, to show you what it looks like, here is how it works. Now, if you're listening to the audio of this, then perhaps jump on YouTube later if you want a demo of this. But what you're going to do first is you're going to jump onto the SportsGrad website. You're going to go to the top right corner and click log in. Once you have hit the login button, it'll take you to this page. It'll ask you to log in. You can do all that. And you're going to get presented with this page here. And so now you can see the latest posts about people who have come to work in the sports industry. So I can scroll down and I can see Adidas graduate management trainee. Or if I keep going, I can see New Zealand cricket head of broadcast and commercial development, Paris 2024 content creator. If I click on any one of them, I can find out exactly what they do. So let's go and check out Paris 2024 content creator and find out what that job was like. So inside here, you can learn about these jobs in a lot more detail and a lot more simpler language than lines on a job description. Because inside here, you can find out exactly what steps a person took to get to the job that they're in. Did they go to uni? Did they volunteer? Did they network? Where did they start? What was their first experience? What did their career progression look like to get this job? Basically, everything they did will be uncovered so that there are no mysteries for you in thinking, how do I even reach this job? And then at the bottom here, we have video interviews that you can watch to hear this person talk about their journey, hear their stories, and then take on their advice. Basically, these articles are designed so that everything that you need to make your next move is available at your fingertips. Now, previously, this was done through the podcast, and there's still a place for the podcast. But by building out this database of the SportsGrad library, you can get all the information that you need 10 times faster. For example, if you like to take notes, then you can just do Control F to find keywords. You can scan the page to get to the parts that you're interested in, and you can copy paste straight into your digital notebook if that's how you prefer to learn. So for those who like to study the SportsGrad podcast, and I know there's quite a few people out there who do this SportsGrad library is going to make it a lot more easier and a lot more accessible to get the information you need to help you narrow your focus quicker. And when you narrow down your niche to 2 or 3 options that you might want to take your career, that's when people remember you for something. That's when you start getting opportunities in sport. Now, I'm going to share another harsh truth about the sports industry with you. And that is 80% of jobs live in the hidden job market, which means they never get advertised. In fact, I hired 3 people last month through the hidden job market. They were Ankita, Jai, and Shekhar. Why? Well, same as before. As the head of HR says, recruitment is risky. And as Donnie says, people offer jobs to people they know and trust because they have historical evidence of what they have achieved and done. And for Ankita, Jai, and Shekhar, I have known them for Jai and Shekhar I've known for 4 years, and Keita I've known for about 2. And I have historical evidence of what they've achieved and done. And so it was a very simple case for me to think, all right, these are the people who I want to be working with. But what Donnie is talking about is actually backed by science, because the hidden job market favors those who have strong networks. And the strength of a network can be judged using the notion of network effects. Now, if you haven't heard of network effects before, it was popularized by this computer scientist whose name was Robert Metcalfe. And Robert Metcalfe, he invented the Ethernet back in the 1970s, which is basically the thing that connects computers to each other. So, Metcalfe's law, named after him, suggests that the value of a network is proportional to the square of the number of its users. So, if your network has got 2 people in it, then the value of it is 2 squared, which equals 4. But if your network has 100 people in it, then the value of it equals 100 squared, which equals 10,000. So on the surface, it might seem like a person who knows 100 people has a network that's 50 times stronger than a person who knows 2 people. But really, because of all the interconnections going on, Metcalfe's law says it's not 50 times more valuable. It's actually 2,500 times more valuable, which is like comparing the power of a toy drone to a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. So when you're thinking about what would you like to carry your career, would you like it to be the drone or the Boeing 787? Would you rather be hovering above the ground, holding onto this drone, or would you rather be sitting first class in the plane? That's the difference in having a network lift your career. But does this actually work? Do you actually need to network? Earlier this year, I was talking to a member who said to me, Ruben, I've been a member for a year now, and a lot of my friends have been asking me, should I join? Is it worth it? And Ruben, I told them that the more time I spend at SportsGrad events, the luckier I get. And that is because when you become a SportsGrad member and you tap into our network, you go from a person who's on an even playing field with everyone else to someone who's got a competitive advantage. Because when you're on an even playing field, you're the guy who's trying to push a boulder up the hill. But when you've got a competitive advantage, you're the guy at the top of the hill who just flicks the boulder and lets it roll down. And if you are trying to make it in one of the toughest industries in the world, you want an unfair advantage. Now, the reason why these SportsGrad members got hired into dream jobs is because they all did it as people flicking the boulder down the hill. Brant Hubber, who I mentioned before, got hired in commercial partnerships at the AFL by networking like crazy. Saloni got hired by Cricket Australia by networking as well. Clayton Henderson got hired by Golf Australia by networking. They all did it as the people flicking the boulder down the hill. And that's the difference between flicking it down and pushing the boulder up is having a network. So if jobs are being handed around behind closed doors through networks, if you are starting from scratch, how do you join those networks? Well, at the moment, there are currently 3 options. You can, 1, attend an industry networking event. Number 2, you can do your own cold outreach on LinkedIn. Or number 3, you can lean on the people around you for introductions. However, the problem with these 3 options is this. Let's start with the first one. Sports networking events are typically extremely expensive and infrequent. They're great if you are safely working full-time and your boss will pay for your ticket and you just want to check in on the latest trends 3 to 4 times a year and catch up with people in the industry. But not if you need a job immediately. For example, Sports Tech World Series costs $750 and they've been good enough to have a student price, but it's a once-a-year event. The Business of Sports Summit, again, a once-a-year conference, it costs $1,400. And Sport NXT, another once-a-year conference that costs $2,000. Again, if you're working in sport, these are amazing events. You'll get plenty of insight out of them and you'll catch up with friends. But not so great if you're trying to break in. So when networking in sport is so infrequent and expensive to do on your own dime, it leads you to do one thing. And that is send cold DMs on LinkedIn. You'd be forgiven if you just had a cold shiver go through your body. But when you resort to networking via LinkedIn, it looks a bit like this. When you resort to networking via LinkedIn, it looks a little bit like this. First, again, like I said before, you spend a couple of hours trying to find the perfect person. Then you spend more time trying to think of the perfect message. Then you spend days, if not weeks, depending on the season of the sport that they are working in, hoping that they reply. Eventually they come back, and it might, take another few days to do back and forth 3 or 4 times to find a time and date that suits. Then you're going to stress about what to wear. Then you've got to get out there and meet them. Then you've got to come back and try and remember what they said. And after 30 days, you finally made one connection. The third option is to lean on the people around you for introductions. Now, leaning on the people around you is only really possible if you were born into sport, or you went to the right school, or you played professionally. But if you started out like I did with 0 connections in sport, then it's an extremely painful process trying to get time with people, where you're literally knocking on people's doors, knocking on their LinkedIn, trying to get attention. And that is why I created SportsGrad events. Now, SportsGrad events are designed to skyrocket your network in the easiest, most cost-effective, and least anxiety-inducing way possible. There's no need to think of what to say. There's no cold DMs. There's no expensive ticket. There's no need to worry about what to wear. You've got enough to think about with your career at the moment. The last thing you need is to think about, how the hell am I going to grow my network in sport, and what am I doing? I haven't met anyone in a while. So when you use SportsGrad to network, you put the growth of your network on autopilot, and it's just one less thing to worry about. It's that easy. So here's what networking looks like for non-SportsGrad members at the moment when they're using LinkedIn. At the moment, you spend an hour scrolling through LinkedIn trying to find someone. Then you spend 4 hours trying to craft the perfect message. Then you spend 2 to 3 weeks hoping they reply. Then you go back and forth 3 or 4 times to try and find a time to meet up. Then you spend an hour trying to plan your outfit so you make a good impression. You might spend 30 to 60 minutes on the train to get to their office. And then finally, after 4 weeks, you meet one person. And after all that, you try and find the mental energy to spend another 4 weeks meeting a second person. But for SportsGrad members, the story looks a bit like this. There is no scrolling through LinkedIn because you don't have to do outreach. There is no need to try and think of the perfect message because, again, you don't need to do the outreach. We use our network for you. There is no waiting 2 to 3 weeks to end up being rejected. There is no logistics to worry about to go back and forth. There's no outfit anxiety because you can join from home. There's no commute time because you can just stay where you are and jump on from anywhere. And you meet at least one person every single week. And with that, you meet professionals in 45 minutes a week with nothing else to organize, which just allows you to maintain the momentum and energy you have with your career rather than literally feeling like you're pushing a boulder uphill to try and grow your network and meet the next person. So let me show you how it works. If I get the SportsGrad platform back up and I go back to the homepage here, then you'll see right at the center of the screen is Community Events Calendar. And when I click on that, I can see everything that's coming up. So, for example, there's some in-person stuff. This Sunday, we've got a member meetup at the AFLW between Collingwood and Carlton. Then on Monday, we've got speed networking. On Wednesday, we've got speed networking, but for pro members. And those are people working full-time in the industry. So we can help connect those people. Then after that, we've got industry intros, which is our way of introducing you to the industry. And we've got Kieran Kilcoyne from the MLS working for Bay FC over in San Francisco coming in to talk about ticket sales. Then you'll see we've got our next Employee Insights session with the Executive General Manager of People and Culture at Cricket Australia, Alison Robertson, which is going to be absolutely huge. If you want to know how to get a job in cricket or at Cricket Australia, then you can talk to the person who's responsible for hiring everyone. After that, we've got Billy Lewis coming in, talking about high performance. There's more speed networking. Adrian from the AFL is coming in to talk about game development. Jess Robinson's coming in from Code Sports to talk about sports journalism. Haley from Golf Australia. Mal from the A-League team, Western United. There's just heaps and heaps and heaps of events coming in. And when you're a SportsGrad member, you simply just come in here, log in, select which one you want to join, and add it to your calendar. It is that easy. So, I mentioned before, over 1 billion people in the world love sport, which is why there is an oversupply of people for jobs that creates an incredibly competitive industry. And that's why in most applications, you can be up against hundreds, if not thousands, of other people going for the same job. And that's why when we had the Director of People and Culture at the Victorian Institute of Sport come on the SportsGrad podcast in episode 110, his name's Dan. He said, "You have got 5 seconds to catch my attention." And that is because HR professionals don't have all the time in the world to simply dive through all these applications. In fact, now they're using AI to speed up the process. So if you need to hit the mark straight away, how do you stand out in your application? Well, there are 3 ways that you can stand out. Number 1, you can stand out by knowing your niche and showing that you're not just after any job, that this is the one. And that's what the Learn membership is designed to help you with. Secondly, you can stand out by having a prior connection to the job and getting a referral from the inside, which is what the Connect membership helps with. And thirdly, you can stand out by tailoring your application to the job, which is what the Fast Track membership helps you with. So, sticking with number 3, how can you nail your application? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. It is know what employers want. When you know what employers want, then you can just tailor your application towards that. But when you're trying to figure out what that actually is, it can feel harder than trying to break into the chamber of secrets. And what it does is it turns job hunting into this laborious process where it becomes a full-time job. Because what you've got to do is this. First, you've got to browse all the different careers pages and public job boards to find a job that fits you. But the problem with that is that there are so many different job boards out there that, what if you miss one? It could have been the perfect role for you. This perfect role could have been out there waiting for you so you can escape your current situation, but you just might not have been aware of it. And right now, people are wasting hours of their life trawling through Seek, through LinkedIn, through global sports jobs, through company careers pages, through sports people. And in the middle of that, they're just trying to dodge the swimming teacher roles and the personal trainer roles just to get to the good stuff. So once you've done all that browsing, then to make sure you are giving employers what they want, you actually need to research the role to find out what is important to being successful in it. So you've got to research the organization to find out what kind of person are they looking for. Then once you've done that, then you have to apply, taking in all the insights that you just researched to write the perfect tailored resume and cover letter every single time. And so because of this, you then become put on this treadmill of browse, research, apply, browse, research, apply, browse, research, apply. And then pretty quickly, job hunting becomes a full-time job. But the worst part of this is that it's actually not an effective approach. Because job hunting is so time-consuming, you become so exhausted that you end up trying to shortcut the process and skipping time doing the research, skipping time tailoring your application, and you end up just trying to throw as many darts as possible, hoping one of them sticks. And so now, not only is job hunting becoming a full-time job, but it's becoming a full-time job where you're just so desperate to get the next application out that you take this scattergun approach, and as a result, you don't even get close to the people who have taken the time to research and tailor their applications to the role. And the industry is taking note. For example, Andrew Condon, managing director of one of the leading sports marketing agencies in Australia, came out with a post on LinkedIn recently and said, "The cover letter is not dead. However, based on the applications I am reviewing, it's clearly endangered. This made those applicants who took the time to craft well-considered and relevant cover letters clear standouts." Now, one of my earliest coaching clients back in 2018 was this guy called Shiv. And at the time, he applied for over 250 jobs before we started working together. And I'm not exaggerating here. If you're watching this, you can see the screenshot of half of the files that exist in his folder titled resumes and cover letters. It is quite outstanding. But as soon as we started to work together on how to tailor his approach, soon after this, his scattergun approach and 250 rejections was quickly fixed because he would get a job at KO Sports and then Sports Host, and then he got a contract with Cricket Australia for the summer, and he got asked back the year after that. Then he started got a full-time job at Softball New South Wales, and eventually got another full-time job at Motorcycling New South Wales. And so when you tailor your application, you become a much more desirable candidate. And people like pre-SportsGrad Shiv aren't uncommon. There are so many people out there who are just trying to throw darts at absolutely anything that they can without thinking about what they are applying for. But that's where SportsGrad members have an advantage, because we created a feature of the SportsGrad platform called the Job Winner, which turns job hunting from a full-time job into just a casual job that you do for a little bit and makes your applications hit the spot. And that is because we're going to get you off the treadmill of browse, research, apply, and we're going to do the browsing for you. We're going to do the researching for you, and we're going to show you the right way to apply. This is so you can start to hit the mark, get your life back in the process, go for that extra run or walk, Pilates session, whatever you've been missing out on, and start working in sport quicker. So, firstly, what we do is we are going to curate the jobs for you so you can start to close all the tabs. Now, after that, we are going to give you all the information that you need on a silver platter, because we have got so much information about what employers want. It is not funny. So, for example, for non-SportsGrad members, what job hunting looks like to them is you've got all these tabs open on your computer. You then spend 3 hours trying to find information about a position and an organization. You then might try and spend another couple of hours on LinkedIn trying to message the HR person who you hope, out of all the 500 messages that they have got left unread, that they take the time to reply to you. You then spend zero time hearing the insights from HR, what they want to hear. You then spend zero time updating your resume that hasn't worked the past 50 times. And unfortunately, you end up on this cycle for another 6 to 12 months and wonder what you are doing wrong. But when you job hunt with SportsGrad, it looks very different. You don't have 17 tabs open, you've got one tab open because we've curated everything into one spot. You don't spend 3 hours trying to research the role and what's important to it. It takes you 1 second to click the link underneath every job to find the info you need. For example, we've done these employee insights sessions with people like the FIFA Women's World Cup. So if you're applying for a job at Football Australia, you can see what that sport is looking for. Same with the T20 World Cup. If you want to apply for the next Cricket World Cup or the next FIFA World Cup, we've got those insights so you can access immediately. Now, if you're job hunting without a SportsGrad membership, maybe you spend 2 hours on LinkedIn trying to find the HR professional. When you're doing it with SportsGrad, you don't spend any time doing that because we bring them to you. The only thing that you do spend more time on as a SportsGrad member is actually time listening to and understanding the insights of employers, because in about 45 minutes, you can hear what the hiring managers of different organizations want to see in your application. Now, again, SportsGrad members do spend a little more time on this next thing, and that is actually spending an hour to tailor their application to hit the mark. So once you've used those proven docs and templates that you get provided, then you might simply repeat that process for 1 to 2 months and then step back, and rather than feel sluggish and be like, what am I doing wrong? Instead, you're marveling at yourself because you've made your dream come true. So that is the job winner. You get everything that you need in one place that helps you turn from a desperate scattergun job hunter into a targeted person who can land a job in sport. Now, this is exactly what happened with Parth Suri. Parth was an ex-Westpac banker who joined SportsGrad on the 16th of May and got a new job with the Adelaide Crows on the 14th of June, which is 29 days later. So he's now working as a community engagement manager. Another great example is Shekhar Sridhar, who said, without the SportsGrad community, I wouldn't have known the role at Cricket Australia was open and have missed out. It was a lifelong dream come true to move to Australia and work in Australian cricket. Shek is now working as a senior customer support coordinator now and has got a permanent full-time role, which is outstanding for him. And then if Dan Raffin as well said, I used a wealth of resources offered by SportsGrad to land this job, and I still use the templates for the resume and cover letter that were provided. Now he's working for the South Sydney Rabbitohs in the NRL as a customer experience assistant. So if you want to make your job hunting easy, let us do the legwork for you. We'll do the browsing for you. We'll do the research for you, and we're going to show you the right way to apply. So here is how it works. If I get the SportsGrad platform up again real quick, what you do is you'll come back to the main page and you'll simply click on the big banner on the left-hand side that says Job Winner. Now, when I go into that, you can see right at the top links to all the different tools that will help you nail your application, tools on knowing how to understand how to dissect the job description, cover letter template, resume template. There's a lot more in there as well. Then we come down, you can see the section on SportsGrad exclusive roles. For example, this one open at the moment, customer marketing coordinator for the Big Bash leagues. They just wanted someone very, very quickly, so they came to us and said, hey, who have you got? So we've thrown that open to the SportsGrad community. Then when you go down, you can see all the different jobs under different functions, whether it's game development or events and operations, or it's marketing. There's heaps there. But for example, let's say you want to dive into one particular role, and the one I've got here is commercial partnerships executive at the Sydney Roosters. What we do here is we try and simplify the jobs for you so that you can actually understand what are the must-haves, because the job description can ask you to be literally one of 100 different things. So to try and make it simpler and less confusing for you to know if you fit the job and how to apply, we ask everyone who submits their jobs to just simply explain what are the must-haves. So we've got 2 must-haves listed under this role as commercial acumen and being able to hit targets for the partnership. Now, underneath that, we've got another little subheading called Insights to Improve Your Application. And there's 2 resources linked here. So the first one has got a link to AFL Partnerships Coordinator, and the other one underneath that is Golf Australia Commercial Partnerships. And both of those links will take you to examples of people in those jobs at the AFL and at Golf Australia. So if you are thinking of doing a similar sort of role for the Sydney Roosters, you can understand what did these 2 people do to get into similar sort of jobs, what was involved in their jobs, what did their pathway look like, so you can kind of copy that and use it as a blueprint to stand out in your application. That is how the job winner works. So, why build all of this? Why build the SportsGrad platform? Well, I believe that if you've been given a helping hand, you should pay it forward. And for me, it was having people like Joel Morrison, who's an executive at Cricket Australia, spend 45 minutes on the phone with me to help me prepare for the job interview that would literally change my life. And it turns out that almost everyone in sport has been given a helping hand, and almost everyone wants to pay it forward. And so that's why we created a space to do so. This is called the SportsGrad Community Discord server, and it's exclusive for members. Now, inside it, you can ask people questions, you can ask for feedback, you can share your wins, and you can use it as a place to pay it forward and help everyone grow their career together. And as a result, people get a lot more in return than what they give out. Now, everything that I've kind of ran you through the SportsGrad platform is great, and I think the features are amazing and will definitely help you. But probably the thing that I'm most proud of is the wave of energy that new members get swept up in when they join SportsGrad. Because inside, everyone wants to see you win. And if you don't have a community to support your career, then the SportsGrad community is going to lift you up. And as a result, you don't just learn more, grow your network, and land jobs. The community helps you become this confident person in the sports industry. Now, when I was at the start of this rebuild phase, I was doing all these different customer interviews. And one of the questions I was asking them was like, could you give me a word about how you felt in relation to your career before SportsGrad and since joining SportsGrad? And for example, I had people like Hamish say before SportsGrad, he felt passive about his career. After SportsGrad, he felt proactive. Tim was misaligned. Now he's aligned. Jasmine was stuck. Now she's confident. Pranav was reserved. Now he's confident. Now he's also confident, and he's just got a new job at Cricket Australia, which, again, I wish I had the recording of the actual live product launch, because that's where he announced to everyone that, hey, I just got a brand new job at Cricket Australia. You can see there's a bit of a theme with members who get jobs through SportsGrad in the history of my career. Then you've got Shayna, who said she was unconfident. Now she's inspired. Billy was shy. Now he's proactive. When you become a SportsGrad member, not only do you start moving in the right direction, but you make this amazing transformation that allows you to walk through life and walk through your career in a much more comfortable and confident fashion. All right. We've gone through a lot today. Now, I spent 5 years trying to break into sport on my own, and I've spent the last 6 years helping others to do the same. I've interviewed over 300 people about their career in sport, and recently I took the business on by myself to take it in a different direction. And so for the last 6 weeks, I've been head down to remodel it and rebrand it and turn it into the most useful platform to break into and grow your career in sport. And to do that, we've got 3 tiers. If you're just at the start, then you can join as a Learn member. If you are looking to grow your network, then you can join as a Connect member. Or if you are already at the pointy end, then you can join as a Fast Track member. So, what happens if you get a job? Well, one of the things that I've done with the new version of the membership is actually give you more flexibility to actually just pay for what you use. Now, previously, everything was kind of bundled into one offering, and SportsGrad was kind of like this cafe that only sold the big breakfast. And it didn't matter if you wanted avo on toast. We were only going to sell you the avo on toast with the bacon and the eggs and the halloumi and the mushrooms, etc. But now, SportsGrad is remodeled to give you more flex as the needs of your careers change. So, for example, like if you are in your first year of uni and you just want to find out what job you want to do and maybe not ready to join an event yet, you can just join as a Learn member, access the information from home, and start to figure out what direction to take your career. Then, for example, if you start to progress, maybe get to the second and third year, and you're ready to start networking and start making connections in the sports industry who hopefully can give you a leg up and a referral when it comes time for you to go for a job, then you might take on a Connect membership. Then finally, when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm on the job hunt, I need to land something pretty soon, that's when you can hop on a Fast Track membership and get all the access to all the resources and information and job opportunities going to help you get hired quickly. Now, we designed this tier so it can be downgraded. You're not meant to stay here. We want you to get it out of Fast Track. But we also want you to come back down to Connect, because when you get a job, it's still important to keep learning and keep meeting people in the industry, because you just never know what might happen down the track. For example, like in 2020, I didn't know how important having a network would be when my job got made redundant. Someone said to me at the time that you don't know that you need a network until you do. And when COVID came along and I lost my job, boy, did I need a network then. So the new flex of this membership allows you to come back down, keep your finger on the pulse, grow with other like-minded young professionals, and continue to progress your career from there. But let's say, you make good progress once you start your career and eventually you're ready for a new challenge and you want to get back on the job hunt again. Well, then you can step it back up, go back into a Fast Track membership, land another dream job, and then come back down to Connect when you're done. Or you know what, maybe actually you just need a break. Maybe you want to go traveling for 6 months. Maybe you want to go and find yourself. I've done that several times. But actually you want to keep your finger on the pulse and understand what jobs are out there, keep the brain ticking over, and that's when you can downgrade again from Connect back down to Learn, just so you can get access to the SportsGrad library and, read about what jobs are going on in the sports industry whilst you're on a bus going through Europe, or you're on a plane. Or you know what, you can cancel at any time and come back when you're ready. But when you join for the first time, you'll get access to the SportsGrad Discord, and you will get lifetime access to that. You will never get kicked out of there. You can stay and chat and do whatever you need to in there. And the reason why I've remodeled it in this way is because, having a career and making money in a way that you love will always be a priority. But I also understand that, your situation will change. And so that's why I've tried to design SportsGrad in a way that fits perfectly into your life, so you don't have to feel like you are sacrificing anything to grow your career easily. So, how much does it cost? Well, before SportsGrad, this is what it looks like trying to find your niche. If you were trying to learn from someone in the industry about what they did, it was a pretty lengthy process of trying to get them on LinkedIn, get time with them. And for a while, when you're just kind of plugging away, hoping for a career to come, you end up in a bit of a muck until you actually start researching and learning what jobs are out there. Then you can start making progress towards a dream job. So, the very basic tier of membership is the Learn One, which costs $29 a month. And you get access to the SportsGrad Discord and the SportsGrad library. Now, basically what that gives you is for less than $1 a day, you can get clarity on your career. And for the same amount, $29, you can go to the pub and buy 2 pints. Maybe you can go to a single yoga class. Or if it's a Friday night, you might dip out and grab a large pizza. Or if you need to get to town, that's a 20-minute Uber. You can grab a Uniqlo t-shirt for $29. Or you can grab a bottle of wine that doesn't taste like absolute gas. Or if you're trying to do a similar thing and grow your career, you can jump on LinkedIn and grab a premium career membership for $39 a month. But there's no information. You'll get LinkedIn Learning, but you won't get information about what jobs in sport are in there. So $29, less than $1 a day to get clarity on your career. Now, what about the Connect membership? Well, again, this is what growing a network looks like before SportsGrad. It's about a 4-week cycle to try and meet one person in sport if you're doing it through LinkedIn. Or if you wanted to go to conferences, you're forking out, in excess of $750 to find all the people in one spot. With SportsGrad, for $49 a month, you get access to speed networking to meet other members, and you get access to industry intros to meet industry professionals every single week. So you can grow your network on autopilot. So $49 a month, or what ends up being less than $1.70 per day, you can start to make serious progress and be one of those people who is standing at the top of the mountain, just flicking the boulder downhill. If you're out there on LinkedIn trying to grind away and grow your network there, it's like you're pushing the boulder uphill with, you're on the same even playing field as everybody else. But when you're a SportsGrad member, you've got a competitive advantage in an extremely competitive industry. So $49 a month, where is that going at the moment? Well, that's like 1 week of F45 classes, or, it might be a case of beer. Or at the moment, down at the Lawn Hotel, that's a pint and a Palmer. Maybe you like to mix your spirits and make cocktails at home. That's a 700 ml bottle of Smirnoff. Or if you're single out there and you just want to get it done quickly, Hinge Premium is about the same price. Or, again, if you're on LinkedIn, a LinkedIn Premium business membership is $65 a month. And none of those give you quick access to the sports industry like SportsGrad does. So if you're looking to invest roughly $50 a month in the right direction that's actually going to help your career, this is where you can do so. So what about the last tier, the fast-tracked tier? Well, previously this is what job hunting involved for non-SportsGrad members. It's a full-time job taking up your entire week. You're on this treadmill of browse, research, and apply, and it causes you just to throw darts at absolutely everything that leads you to missing the mark. Well, the Fast Track membership gives you access to the job winner, where we do the research for you, we show you where to apply, and we show you how to apply. And all of that is just $59 a month. But we want you to get out of here, so you won't be paying that for too long. But what it ends up being like is less than $2 a day to spend less time job hunting and more time working in sport. So for $59, that's like Uber Eats for 2 people, or maybe it's, one nice bottle of wine. Or if you're going out for dinner, that's like the cheapest option for a set menu. Again, $65 is what LinkedIn Premium will get you. And LinkedIn Premium doesn't do the research on the job, doesn't give you all the employer insights, doesn't give you access to the events as well, doesn't bring the jobs to you in a collated way for the sports industry. And not to mention, like, every day that you are taking time to job hunt, you are not earning in the sports industry. So taking into the account the cost of not working in sport, $59 is not bad at all. When once you start working, you're ending, making tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in sport. So that is how SportsGrad stacks up. Now, today, what I've shared with you is updates to the membership that are making it stronger and easier to use than ever before. And at the moment, we've got members in Australia and scattered around the world in over 25 countries. But my goal is to create SportsGrad in a way that helps people land their dream job, make them excited to wake up to work in sport. And I'm on a mission to try and help 10,000 people land jobs in sport. But to do that, we're going to have to think globally, which is why very soon we're going to be consolidating what we're doing here in Australia and then doubling down to make it easier for people to take their careers to the UK, Europe, US, because I truly want to make this a global product that allows people to live their dream in sport no matter where they go. And so it's wonderful to see how many people have taken interest in the relaunch of SportsGrad over recent weeks. Like, I've been truly blown away by the amount of people who have reached out and said, hey, can we help? Can I give you my insights? How's it going? Like, it's just been phenomenal. And especially with the take-up as well in recent weeks and the amount of people who want to hang around it, just shows that there are so many people serious about wanting to make a difference in the world of sport and using that as a vehicle for good. But as great as this sentiment is, I want to keep it real with you, because I spent 5 years trying to get a job in sport, which is why I want to make it easier for other people. And in 2017, I launched SportsGrad as a YouTube channel to help my friends at uni learn about the sports industry. And then in 2018, I started career coaching people who asked me, Ruben, how did you get your job at Cricket Australia? And then in 2020, the SportsGrad podcast was launched to #1 on the careers charts. And later that year, the first version of the SportsGrad membership was born. Then in 2021, we had the very first SportsGrad meetup, which hosted 110 people in Richmond. And in 2022, when we had over 200 people crammed into Fargo and Co. on Swan Street, I knew it was time to ramp things up. And then in 2023, SportsGrad Pro was born. But in 2024, earlier this year, I had enough. And I actually ended up quitting SportsGrad in March this year. And for 2 months, I was out the door thinking about what's next, because I was just exhausted. But deep down, I knew that I couldn't leave SportsGrad behind, because I knew that this problem wasn't fixed. And that's why I decided to take on the company and take it in a new direction. And so now I am super, super excited to throw everything at it and to rebuild it into the most useful platform possible. The other thing that kept me going was something really unfortunate that happened to me. While I was working at Cricket Australia, I was sexually assaulted by a colleague. And for the next 4.5 years after that incident, I fought to seek justice. Until finally last year, that person was found guilty. However, sadly, that result was appealed. And so next month, I will be back in court to give my evidence again and hopefully finish this saga, which has been comfortably the worst thing that's ever happened to me. But one thing it has done for me is actually give me new meaning to helping good humans enter the sports industry. And so that is why I'm still here. The latest SportsGrad membership has taken all the different iterations and all the different research to create the most useful tool to break into the sports industry. And that is what I will continue to do. Thank you.